Welcome to the Dobsonian Power live show. Today a special guest again, Dr. A.V. Loeb. Thank you, Dr. Loeb, for being here with us again. We appreciate it so much, especially in this end of the year and after the approach to the Earth of 3i Atlas. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. It's a great pleasure, and the best is yet to come. That's the way I think about it.
Very nice start. I love it. But I want to make you right away a question. We have many questions to you, but I will summarize it. There's about the new post that you just posted on your Medium. By the way, the people that are not aware, I think here, at least in this channel, everyone follows AV Loeb Medium, and you have the link to the website. If you sign up and hit the notifications, you will receive right away, as soon as he publishes, as I do, I receive right away an email with his publication, so you have the link here. So, Dr. Loeb, that last post was about that Allen array, so it's a group of 42 telescopes, dishes, that radio telescopes that give us a paper after that about the object, the interstellar object 3i Atlas. But there's another paper that was released by SETI that they used also this telescope that I have here.
Meerkat? Yeah.
No.
Oh, different one.
This one, the Green Bank telescope. Mm-hmm. So the other one, the group, the array, it's a modern way to use them. This kind of telescopes is on California. This one is in Virginia. By coincidence, 54 kilometers away from the meeting in Quantico of the president before 3i Atlas approach to the sun and later to the Earth, which is an interesting coincidence because it was an unprecedented meeting with generals. However, this kind of telescopes gave us plenty of data. It's very nice to have, very cool to have that data about 3i Atlas. And both papers, at the end, they concluded that there was no techno signature in 3i Atlas. My question for you is, they based and they refer to Voyager as an example. If a Voyager crossed right now, here, something like Voyager, we will capture those frequencies. My question is, if AV Loeb was in an alien planet right now, with alien NASA, far away from the Earth, and our Voyager crossed the sky there, but the Voyager was already finished without any way of communication, without any way of being controlled by humans, and without any emission because it was completely finished, would it be something super relevant to assume it's not an alien spaceship, which it was, that no radio communication or techno signature through radio communication was detected?
Well, first of all, radio communication is rather primitive. You know, that's what we were using for a while here on Earth. About a century ago, it became quite handy. But on the other hand, right now, the frontier is laser communication, and it's a very different approach. And the other thing to keep in mind is these observations that put limits on 3i Atlas were done at a particular date, so just one day, and even less than a day, 7.25 hours in one case, for example, and in a particular frequency band, we don't know in which frequency band there might be transmissions and at what time there might be transmission. I mean, obviously, if there is a transmitter that transmits all the time, that's a huge amount of energy to transmit. But in addition to that, we have to keep in mind that if someone sent a probe from another star, the light travel time is tens of thousands of years across the Milky Way galaxy. And so it makes very little sense for the probe to immediately transmit the signal, because the sender cannot send back any instructions. The time it takes 3I Atlas to pass through the entire solar system, all the way to the edge of the Oort cloud, which is 100,000 times the Earth-Sun separation, is 8,000 years. And that's much shorter than the time it takes a light signal to cross the Milky Way galaxy disk. So that means that any interstellar mission should have its own intelligence. In the way that we would design it, we would have artificial intelligence there if we don't put humans. And we haven't yet, by the way, used artificial intelligence on a spacecraft completely independent of Earth. I mean, we send equipment to Mars, the moon, and it's usually supervised by engineers in Jet Propulsion Lab or other places. And the point is that we've never tried to let the spacecraft make its own decisions using its own brain. And that would be necessary when you go out of the solar system into interstellar space, because it takes too much time to communicate with the probe. It's like sending your kids out of home. You don't expect them to consult with you on each and every step they make. Every now and then you get some short message. And the same is true, obviously, in the context of interstellar travel. So for us to imagine that we would get transmission if we just check one day at a particular frequency band is very naive. And moreover, the transmission to save power may be directed at the sender whenever it takes place. We are not the sender, okay? So why would it be directed at Earth on the specific date and the specific frequency band that we have been using in our cell phones? This is not, and also I should say that they were filtering, they were looking for narrowband transmission in the case of the Allen telescope array, and we just don't know how narrowband this transmission is and what is the means of communication. So I would say all of this is quite speculative and not constraining. Of course, if there was a technological signature, it would have been fantastic. But one thing to keep in mind, the same SETI community was criticizing any discussion about the technological signature associated with 3I Atlas. Now we know that on July 2nd, just a day after the 3I Atlas was discovered, they were immediately using the radio telescope to collect data on it. And that's the only data that the SETI owned Allen telescope array was used, at least according to the report. They plan to use it again now in December. But my point is, they were immediately excited to check it out, yet they criticized anyone that raises the possibility of 3I Atlas being technological. To me, it sounds really strange. I mean, if they are open-minded to the possibility that there could be a radio transmission, why wouldn't you encourage the discussion, the public discussion, on checking for other technological signatures? Instead, I had to fight. There were actually bloggers, one of whom was the original PhD advisor of the person who was first author on this paper that we saw today from the SETI community, from the Allen telescope array. She was mentored by a person who wrote blog posts criticizing my discussion of technological signatures of 3I Atlas. So you get this double message from the SETI community. As long as they can say, we checked and didn't find anything, they're happy to do that. But if someone raises the possibility of other technological signatures, they're extremely negative and personal. Actually, those blog reports by her mentor, Jason Wright from Pennsylvania State University, were deeply personal. He was trying to attack my professional integrity in his blog post. And, to me, it sounds strange, because if the same community that he belongs to, the same people that he works with, see a day after 3I Atlas was discovered, see it necessary to check for any radio signal, it means that we should all discuss this possibility of a technological object. Why? Because there could be other technological signatures, and we should all be curious about the 15 anomalies that Avi Loeb put online. Why? Because maybe one other anomaly may be a technological signature. Why not discuss it in an open mind rather than attack me personally for raising these 15 anomalies? He actually wrote a whole blog post attacking each and every one. In some of them, he said, yep. as if he agrees that it's an anomaly, yet he was arguing that we should never even consider the possibility of technological origin. I find that a bit strange, because when I have a long career. I've been working for half a century in physics. About half of the modern history of physics was part of my career. I witnessed that. So I have a lot of experience, and I know that in many frontiers, this is exactly the way research is done. You propose hypotheses, you check them. When there are anomalies, that's an opportunity to discover something new. This is all good science. And the way that science makes progress is by a community of people being open-minded and then examining those possibilities based on data and demonstrating that they can explain the anomalies in other ways. You can't just say this object has a particular nature and ignore the anomalies, which was pretty much the message in the NASA press conference. If you remember, they did not discuss the anti-tail. By now we know the anti-tail existed back in July, because we see it in the Hubble Space Telescope image on July 21st. And it was 10 times longer than it was wide. Now we know from the latest images that there is an anti-tail, again in the direction of the sun, going out to a distance of 1,000,000 kilometers, again 10 times longer than it is wide. So the anti-tail is a generic physical, yet what you found are people saying, oh, we see sometimes anti-tails as a matter of perspective. Well, it's not a matter of perspective. Why? Because we saw it all along, and we see it to 1,000,000 kilometers, and we've never seen that for a comet. So please admit when there is something that is not explained that we see for the first time, admit that this is interesting, that this is a mystery that we should all understand. Why? Because that would allow us to figure out the nature of the object. Now, even if it's natural, it's not at all obvious that it came from a planetary system. Maybe it came from a molecular cloud. Who knows? So by being curious, we can figure this out. By being dogmatic, we will not learn anything. And so, as I always say, just to summarize my point, the foundation of science is the humility to learn. It's not the arrogance of expertise. And what we see over and over and over again is the arrogance of expertise on display when members of academia ignore mysterious properties and do not explain them, at the same time deliver a dogmatic message that everyone should subscribe to just because it's their dogma.
Yes, it's that here I just purchased this duck because of the talk of a duck and that thing, and we have even this, and we call here in my channel the shenanigans. And from the citizen perspective, that is not aware, people are not aware of all of those I am, and people here as well, because I expose them. But the problem is that those guys then they have people that work with them that feel constrained, and then they follow them, and that is transmitted to the public.
Well, it's also I should say it also transmitted in academia, and it has a very negative effect. Let me just mention an anecdote. When I submitted a paper trying to explain the anti-tail, the editor of the journal that I submitted it to said, "This is not a problem of great interest." Okay.
Yeah, I remember.
And then
Perfectly.
The editor did not even send the paper for review. The editor said we decline it just because I said so. And then I sent it to another journal, similar, comparable quality journal at the top of the profession. It was accepted for publication after being reviewed by referees. And, the same thing happened when, there was no non-gravitational acceleration detected out of in the case of 3I Atlas. So I submitted a paper saying we can use the rocket equation to derive a lower limit on the mass of the object, because the object must be very massive. It's losing mass in a preferred direction. We see the jet, and yet it's not showing non-gravitational acceleration. I submitted this paper at the end of September using the rocket equation to infer the mass. And the paper was rejected by an editor that said, oh, this is not the right approach to figure out non-gravitational acceleration. Again, the arrogance of expertise. Because the editor said, because the gas leaves the object at a very low speed that could be, in fact, insignificant at all. And so there would not be a rocket. That was the argument. And to me, that is in contradiction to all the literature that talks about comets gaining non-gravitational acceleration as a result of the rocket effect from the evaporation of sublimation of ice on their surface. Anyway, so now the same editor accepted a paper that uses the same equation, the rocket equation, just because they now there is a detection of non-gravitational acceleration, so you can derive the mass. So the same editor, suddenly this equation is not heresy anymore. Suddenly this equation looks appealing. And a paper reporting what mass you get from taking the non-gravitational acceleration was published in the same journal. And so, it just shows you how flexible is the mind of those people who claim that nobody other than experts should tell them what should, but they are inconsistent. The SETI community is inconsistent in the way it treats technological signatures from 3I Atlas, and comet experts are inconsistent in the way they treat non-gravitational acceleration as a result of the rocket effect. These are two examples, and I have more, just to show you that they contradict themselves. Now, the other thing, let me just mention one thing that that was not even discussed in my papers, which is if you have a pocket of ice on the surface of a rock and you illuminate it by sunlight and warm it up, you will end up with a plume of gas coming out of this ice, and it will go in all directions. You will not get a tightly collimated jet that is 10 times longer than it is wide. You cannot do that. One way to do that is if you drill a hole in the surface and you have a pit and you put the ice at the base of the pit. But then it will be illuminated by sunlight only if the sun is exactly overhead, because otherwise it will be in the shadow of this pit. So you will not get a very long-lived sublimated jet. And so it's really challenging to collimate a jet using just surface ice. And in fact, if you look at comets, we don't see tightly collimated jets extending to 1 million kilometers in the direction of the sun. We've never seen that. We've seen optical illusion of an antitail for a short distance, just because we were looking at it from a different direction. But now we've been looking at 3I Atlas from all directions, and it definitely looks like it has a jet pointed at the sun.
Yes, definitely. It has a big jet, and it's always pointing towards the sun, which is super rare. It's another anomaly, one of the last ones. That one with that thing with the poles of the own object. No, it has one in front, another on. Then it changed to the back in a symmetric, precise
but
way.
By the way, I should mention also that I have a great respect for those amateur astronomers that have their own telescopes that cost thousands of dollars, and they produce very informative images, because I haven't yet seen a big telescope produce an image that shows the jet so nicely stretched across that large distance. And at the same time, in the NASA press conference, we just saw fuzzy images from the celebrated HiRISE image that didn't give us any information. And that's, using instruments that are altogether at the cost of $1 billion from all these missions. And now it looks like MAVEN, one of the observatories that provided the ultraviolet data on 3I Atlas back in October, early October 2nd. A couple of months later, it disappeared. We can't communicate with it.
Yeah, it's strangely. Yeah, about the astronomers, the amateur astronomers like me, I just purchased this massive telescope. It's 16 inches, waiting for a bigger house to start using it. And there's much more people out there that can grab images, and we try to. But the thing is, Dr. Loeb, we are limited. We can't have the detail, and we rely on those institutions. It's a shame. It's very confusing. They transmit that, what I was saying, SETI and other institutions, they transmit that narrative or that way of behavior, that censorship, that dogma to the other people.
Well, but keep in mind that this data that was reported today was taken on July 2nd.
Yes, since the beginning.
About almost 5.5 months delay in the dissemination of that data. Why so long? And at the same time, why only one day? if you have that telescope, radio telescope, just observe it over several months, give us data across the entire period. Why only 7.25 hours out of one day, putting a limit and closing the lid on any radio transmission, like as if that was the objective? Let's just check very, very shortly. We don't see anything, that's it. And that is not a very good approach, because we know that some of the signatures in the optical or infrared from 3I Atlas were detected at later in the trajectory as it came closer to Earth. And so anyway, it's disappointing that we haven't seen the major telescopes looking at it. Now, one thing that is the advantage of a big telescope, like for example the Keck telescope or the Webb telescope, is that they can take a spectrum, meaning they not only get the image of 3I Atlas in a single filter, broadband filter, but actually can see the intensity as a function of wavelength, which allows us to detect spectral lines of atoms or molecules. Why is that important? First of all, it will let us figure out the composition of the jet. We don't know the composition of the jet because all we saw before was the coma, the glowing halo around the object. So I would like to know if the jet is the same composition. The second thing is the speed of the jet. You can measure through the Doppler effect the velocity of the jet relative to 3I Atlas, because we know the speed of 3I Atlas. And so we can tell if the jet is moving away from 3I Atlas towards the sun, exactly towards the sun, or slightly off, or we can infer if the speed is indeed a few hundred meters per second at most. That's what you expect from the evaporation of pockets of ice. You can't get bigger speeds because that's the thermal speed of atoms and molecules, a few hundred meters per second. That's it. You can't get more than that. If the speed of the jet is a few kilometers per second or more, then it would mean that it cannot be natural origin. It would need to be some thruster, because we know that rockets that we use get exhaust speeds of kilometers per second, and ion thrusters that we use in spacecraft get exhaust speeds of a few tens of kilometers per second. So you can get much larger speeds if you don't use a natural process. And so it would be very informative also to figure out how much mass is carried by the jets, because if it's a significant fraction of the object mass, then we would know what the object is made of. In the case it is a natural object, we expect it to be made of the same composition as the glow of molecules around it and the jets that we see. So this would be very useful information, as in the coming weeks and months to get. I really hope that the observational teams will report it very soon. Usually what happens is they take a few weeks to a few months, and in the case of the SETI community, it took 5.5 months to release the data.
Yeah, the last time you visit us, I said to you, I remember, you have too much faith on them. And that's something, look, I don't understand that since the 3I Atlas was registered the discovery in the 1st of July, and then the 2nd, everyone start working on that, and it feels, the perception we have is that it's worse than not working for what they are meant to. It's doing the opposite side. They are almost feels like they are trying everything to instead of search for intelligent life, they are doing everything to prove that it's not intelligent life, and that is crazy.
Well, I can sort of understand that in the context of the SETI community, why they are apologetic. Because if you remember, there used to be funding from the US government for the search for radio signals before 1993. And after that, it was stopped. And since that time, the SETI community was apologetic, because they are sort of trying to explain to the mainstream of astronomy that what they're doing is still worthwhile, and they don't want to upset anyone. And so for them to be respected, they have to show that they can get limits, and that they're not claiming any signals. And they are constantly with fear that their reputation might be tarnished because the mainstream will completely dismiss them and not even give them the credibility that they wish to have. And that is the wrong mindset, because the point is, it's a completely reasonable possibility to imagine that something like us existed billions of years ago around another star. Why do I say that? Because now we know that there are 10 billion Earth-Sun analogs based on the latest data, the statistics, within the Milky Way galaxy alone. Okay, so you have 10 billion systems like ours, and the most natural expectation is to say things like us existed, and since most stars, existed billions of years, formed billions of years before the sun, that they had plenty of time to reach our backyard. Even with the technologies of the 1970s, Voyager will reach the opposite side of the Milky Way galaxy in about 1 billion years. So there was plenty of time for them to reach. It doesn't take more than the speed of light. It actually takes the speed of Voyager that was crafted back in the 1970s. It was sent out 1977, Voyager 1, September 1977, only a few weeks after the WOW signal was discovered. So my point is, of course, radio signals travel at the speed of light, but that's also a problem because you have to be at the right place at the right time to detect them. But if we missed a signal, then we won't be able to catch up with it. But on the other hand, if you have packages delivered into your mailbox, the sender could be dead. Who cares? And it's a completely different approach. And so we have a new opportunity now to look for technological signatures. And instead of embracing it with great joy, the SETI community, again, is trying to prove that they don't see anything and be hostile to that possibility.
Yeah, and even that example that I often give here, that I just gave about the Voyager in an alien planet with alien NASA and alien Dr. Loeb. Even that example, they can say, "Oh, but Voyager it looks like a spaceship, but it might be cloaked. It might be camouflage." Isn't that possible, Dr. Loeb? In 200 years, we will all be gone. Me, you, everyone here that is sending loads of love. I can't pull all the messages. It's loads of love. It's beautiful. But all of us will be gone. We'll not be here. And it won't be possible in a distant future, whatever, that I truly believe this, because I remember that you published something about the... putting reflectors on asteroids or something. Right. And you just talk about, I wish I went with 3 Atlas. Would it be possible for humans or any other civilization to put something in an interstellar object and with that speed?
It's not only feasible, it could be very much desirable, because just think about an object as big as 3I Atlas. It's the size, of at least 1 kilometer. The biggest spacecraft that or rocket that we produced is Starship, and it's at least 10 times smaller, including the fuel reservoir. So, it's unimaginable for us to construct a spacecraft that is as big as 1 kilometer or more, that we will be able to lift off from the surface of this planet. It's really difficult. If we wanted to have a spacecraft that big, it would be far easier to construct it in space. Okay, now we can, in principle, have a space station and start to put the Lego pieces together to make a big construction. That's one approach. But another approach is just what you said. We go on an asteroid or on some natural object that is out there, maybe a comet, and we use the resources on that object to repurpose it for technological applications. Of course, a lot of people talk about mining asteroids, looking for rare minerals or perhaps even fuel inside the asteroids. But there is a bigger vision than that. If you get a hold of an asteroid or get on it, you could use the materials there to produce technological equipment or structures. Now, the question is, how easy would it be for an outsider looking through a telescope to recognize that, because obviously the comet experts will argue it's just a rock. And even when we deal with the Tesla Roadster car, back in January 2nd, when it was seen, it was cataloged at first by the Minor Planet Center as a near-Earth asteroid. So even when we deal with a car, the telescope cannot tell us it's a car. The comet experts argued it's an asteroid, it's a rock. And then they realized that it follows the path of the Tesla Roadster car that was launched by SpaceX. So that allowed them to catalog it. But if someone else produced that car, if it's an interstellar car, we would never know. So I'm saying, even in the case of a car, this confusion exists. So let alone a rock that was excavated and used for technological signatures. So now the question is, if such a rock enters the solar system, what is the best way to figure out that it has some technologies? So one way is if it has a power source, an engine, there would be more heat coming from it than you expect based on the supply of heat from the sun. Okay, so we can look for the heat. That's, for example, something that the Webb telescope can do. The infrared emission from the object would show a central heat source. We don't have a resolved image of 3 Atlas, so we don't know. But another possibility is artificial lights somehow, are produced by the object, or it will maneuver. But I completely agree that you can imagine something like the Trojan horse, where the city of Troy residents assumed that it's completely friendly, but then inside there is something else. And we should not judge a book by its cover. That's well known.
Yeah, but about the spectrometry and everything else, this is the news, by the way, about that Tesla that is, they make mistakes, and they have to be humble to accept that they might be making many mistakes now with 3 Atlas and other stuff. But around that, the instruments and the spectrometry that is important and all of that, I remember, and I have it here, because the public wants to see something else, because we are limited with our telescopes on Earth. I can do what I can. It's a very bright object, and I can't have a detailed surface image of it. But I remember that Arecibo telescope was finished in 2020 because a cable or whatever they finished, the telescope was not safe. But we have, and if we Google Arecibo and asteroid, we have plenty of images of an asteroid. These radar images. With lots of detail.
So on this point, I should mention that 3I Atlas came relatively close to the circle of the Earth around the sun. If we were on the opposite side of that circle in late October, instead of being on the side that where the sun is blocking our view of 3I Atlas, if we were on the same side of the sun as 3I Atlas was, we could have used existing radar imagers to get a full three-dimensional image of 3I Atlas. I did the calculation. It was close enough. The thing about radar is that the brightness of the object, when you illuminate it with a beam of radio waves, the brightness that you receive reflected from the object declines inversely with distance to the 4th power. It's extremely steep as a function of distance. So if we were 50 million kilometers, rather instead of being 7 times farther away, we could have obtained an image of 3I Atlas, a resolved image, and as it would rotate, let's say every 16 hours, we would get the 3-dimensional mapping of its surface. That would have been amazing. Now, we can think about doing that in the future, not relying just on Earth. We can either use a camera or a radar system that we put on an interceptor that comes close enough to future objects like 3I Atlas. I should also say 3I Atlas is the 3rd object that was identified by telescopes. There were only 2 before it. There cannot be an expert on interstellar objects. The idea of experts is completely irrelevant in this case, because the sample is only 2 before this object came along, and it's very different than the previous ones. So it reminds me of people going on dates, and some people, decide to get married on the first date. but their sample is only one, so they can't really tell how unusual or exceptional the person they decided to get as a partner, how exceptional that person is, because their sample is only one person. And so the people who claim they understand 3A Atlas as comet experts, cannot really do that, because we have a sample of 2 before this one came along.
Yeah. Yeah, but this Arecibo was finished, but I was researching, and to understand what the heck is happening, we don't have at least an attempt to do it. And look, this is the best we could do, and we don't have, maybe we need more or whatever, but nothing. Only dots and blurred images from the instruments we were expecting the most. And I understood that, and for the people that don't, the Arecibo had a special characteristic. It was not only a receiver, but it was a transmitter. Right. Actually, we have the 3x bigger fast telescope on China. It's the bigger dish that we have right now on Earth, but it's only a transmitter. So it's not good for this kind of...
A receiver, you mean? It's only a receiver. Yeah.
It's only a receiver. It doesn't... yes. But the... This on United States we have right now, it's the Goldstone telescope that in this image that you are watching here, it was worked with Arecibo as well. That it has a smaller dish than Arecibo. I think it's only 70 meters or something like that. But what I want to expose here is we have, and the United States are the only ones that have a telescope, a radio telescope, that has the technology, at least to an attempt of capturing some images like this.
By the way, this is radar. You are talking about technology of radar. I was curious because we have also the Event Horizon telescope. That's the highest resolution telescope built on Earth that has roughly an aperture size like the diameter of the Earth. That's a network of radio dishes at the sub-millimeter wavelength that are imaging black holes, that are getting the silhouette of a black hole. I was one of the people who back 20 years ago made predictions about the silhouette, the shadow of a black hole that by now was discovered. And the first image was produced of the galaxy M87 in the conference room of the Black Hole Initiative that I served as the founding director of. And my point is, nobody even checked whether the Event Horizon telescope could potentially detect radio waves and image 3A Atlas. I actually sent a message to one of the leaders, but didn't receive a response. And, black holes we imaged already, and we know that they fit the theory. We can infer things from those images. But how about trying to apply the best instruments we have to 3I Atlas just because it's an unusual object?
Yeah, it's all very weird for the public as I am to understand why they do that. I know that you are always balanced and polite in your opinions, but I don't have. I really feel they hide something. Many people feel they hide something. You don't have to think that, but we feel that, we the public, and we are the majority. And something very, very strange happening, because it was supposed. It's the third, for Christ's sake, it's the third interstellar object full of anomalies. Super interesting, regardless it's natural or alien. Super interesting for us. It's an opportunity. And it should be the attention, the focus of everyone else on the community, scientific community. And it feels like they are doing the opposite. They are trying to look up.
Because in academia, the name of the game very often is to maintain your stature, not to take risks so that you are not proven wrong, and to protect yourself from being wrong. And the best way to do that is to subscribe to traditional echo chambers. Like if you have a whole community of people claiming that anything in the sky must be an icy rock, it's much safer for you to admit that, and because that community referees your papers, decides whether to give you money, and so forth. So you have this herd mentality, and it's very bad for innovation. in science. And you would expect, because there is tenure in academia, that people would feel free to innovate, to take risks, because what's the point of doing science if not learning something new, instead of repeating mantras that we knew already? So we should focus on the things that we don't understand, not on the things that we understand. And instead you find the bulk of the literature just on nuances to what we already know. And that is the landscape that I have to live in. And unfortunately, it's not just a debate that is fair and honest, because those people who do not want to consider alternatives, they are biased in the way that they release their data. They're biased in the way that they review papers, only papers that go along the lines that their narrative approves, they would admit. And this is really bad, because how many discoveries have we missed in the past as a result of that? And we don't even know that we missed it. Instead, if you look at what the mainstream did in recent decades, it was searching for dark matter, didn't find it. It was, and just a week ago, there were 2 reports in Nature magazine, the most prestigious journal, about the search for sterile neutrinos. This is a ghost particle that was thought to maybe exist in order to explain some anomalies in experiments. So they put $90 million combined in the 2 experiments, didn't find anything. And so you say, okay, well, obviously we can't really predict in advance what nature is. So we should approach it with humility, meaning the mainstream that thinks that it's worth investing $90 million in this direction failed. Also, the mainstream that thought that we should invest billions of dollars in the search for supersymmetry, a new symmetry of nature, failed. It was not found by the Large Hadron Collider. If the track record of the mainstream was always perfect, then we would say, okay, well, it makes a lot of sense just to go in that direction. But given that the mainstream itself is routinely going into dead ends that are wrong, means that you should allow multiple directions to be explored. Because if everyone does the same thing, then we are all doomed. If the research is not finding what we were supposed to find, then we lack any sense of what is the true answer. But if you allow different paths, maybe a path taken by a young person, by some amateur astronomer, some path that is different from the mainstream, ends up being the right one and discovering. And I should say, all of the funding for science is going into projects that involve the known unknowns, meaning these are things that we know that we don't know. And so we are funding billions of dollars, funneling into directions that we know that we don't know what the thing is, like, for example, dark matter, dark energy. And my point is, the real frontiers of science are when we discover the unknown unknowns, meaning something we didn't even expect that we don't know. And quantum mechanics is an example of that. Nobody expected quantum mechanics. There was a physicist named Michelson in 1895, gave a talk in celebration of a new laboratory at the University of Chicago. And he said, physics is pretty much over. All that remains, we understand everything. All that remains is to figure out the fundamental constants to the 5th decimal point. And then 10 years later, special relativity by Einstein. Another 10 years, general relativity by Einstein. Another 10 years, quantum mechanics. These 3 facets completely revolutionized the way we think about the physical reality. And here was a mainstream expert, leader, celebrating a new laboratory at the University of Chicago and being extremely confident that we pretty much know everything. And all that remains is to figure out fundamental constants to the 5th decimal point. What am I trying to say? This pattern keeps repeating in academia. People that are in love with themselves, with their ego, with their echo chamber, are confident that this is the truth and there is nothing else. The problem is that they should not block the attempts by others to look into the alternatives, and they should not ridicule anyone that allows for other possibilities. Now, in this context, I just want to mention one thing, that, and that there was an interview that I had on News Nation just a few days ago, And somehow the digital team of News Nation made a big news splash out of it. I basically was asked about Three-Eye Atlas, and I said, most likely it is natural. And they said, Avi now admits that it's natural. And all these critics jumped on it and said, oh, now he's changing. And I had to write an essay just yesterday explaining that I always said that from the beginning, from early July, that it's most likely natural, but there are all these anomalies that imply that we must take it seriously, the possibility that it's something else. And just think about it. If you are curious about the anomalies and you don't agree with Avi, you just say, these are natural as well, but you don't know how to explain them. You try to explain them, then you will learn something new, okay? There is nothing wrong about considering alternatives.
Exactly. I talked about a long time about that interview yesterday, and I said exactly what you said. I know since the beginning, the 2nd of July, you were posting and working hardly on that, and you were on vacation, working hardly on this subject, and only a few weeks later, you start to asking many questions because nothing made sense. And it's the natural way, and they again doing that. The arrogance, it's always leads to the arrogance and the ego and the lack of humility.
So Tiago, I feel like the canary in a cave. Basically, I am that bird that enters into the cave of academia and tells you that the situation is not healthy intellectually. It's not healthy out there, and we need to change that culture.
Yes, we need. But think in this, for instance, in 200 years, we are all gone. The reporter, me, you, everybody. And there's something we are talking right now in this, we are sharing reality in this timeline, but we are talking in the future as well. Imagine if the 145I/Atlas has something super weird and someone says, okay, I will not trust AI. AI is something weird. Let me check what other scientists said in the past. And maybe they are right now, in the future, watching this interview with you, or this conversation, better saying, and they are saying, so this was the moment, and they were discussing this, and Avi Loeb was almost, if not the only one, pushing harder, and thanks to him, thanks to Avi Loeb, that now is gone for loads of years ago, but now we have more information relevant about the beginning of something that might be very special in the future. We don't know, Avi Loeb. It might, what you are doing right now, it might not be significant right now because we have these constraints, but in the future it might be gold. We don't know. Right. So you are doing great, great work.
I should say that a few weeks ago, I was interviewed on a podcast by the former Speaker of the House in the U.S. House of Representatives. This is Newt Gingrich. And he started my conversation with him by saying, thank you so much, Avi. It's a great honor speaking with you, because what you did to the concept of space exploration in recent months, in terms of increasing the awareness of both the public, the political system to this subject, is more than was done in many decades before that. And coming from him, I've never met him, it reflected to me an important virtue of discussing the subject, because not only that it shows how science should be done with an open mind and how exciting science could be so that young people are attracted to become scientists. And I really hope they will become scientists, because I don't have much hope from the senior people that I know. I really hope the next generation will do better than my generation in solving scientific problems. But beyond that, there is now more awareness to this subject. And, it is the first time that we find alien technology. It will become an issue with planetary defense, and it will garner as much attention as the $2.4 trillion every year that we spend on military budgets. That, just think about space exploration with $1 trillion per year budget instead of what we are doing right now.
There was a navy law in the 1500s when we were discovering continents and other lands. It's the same. That it's repeating the patterns of human greed, arrogance, whatever. But we, at the end, we take time, but the good ones will win. And furthermore, that very important point that you made about the new generations, don't underestimate them, because they are very, very smart. You know that. I know, because I also have kids, and we can see that they watch from a different perspective. They know what AI, the dangers of AI. We, the adults, are the ones that are worried about something they already processed, and help us actually to distinguish what is good or bad.
Yeah,
But
I have great respect and expectations from human intelligence, even in the age of AI, because I see how unreliable AI is, and so I believe that our future will prosper if humans lead the way and do not rely on AI agents to figure out the information for them.
We want for sure, because it's in our human DNA, and that will prevail at the end. We have imbalances, no, and even moments in history, but then it comes to a balance as well again. But Evilo, a question that everybody asks after that, what I believe it was a trap interview to you, but I understand you had 8 interviews and you are always working. Right. It's normal that sometimes they try to hit you. Yeah, it's their job.
It's one out of maybe several dozens.
Yeah.
And sometimes they have an agenda, and I didn't anticipate that agenda. And by the way, I complained about it this morning to News Nation, and I was told that it's the digital team that decided to make it, because I said, look, this is just confusing the readers. You are not telling the truth. I didn't change my mind. And so I asked the person to share my message with the digital team, because in this case, they screwed up.
Yeah, but the question that after that we can't erase that. After that, it's the main question for the public. In a Loeb scale, right now, I know from the beginning everything always was a 4 in the Loeb scale. You always said from the beginning, always, it might be natural, but it also have anomalies that can lead to us to think and through the hypothesis of being alien. So we are playing with both sides, so neutral. Right now, in this moment in time, is it a 4?
Yes, it's a 4 plus or minus 2, I would say, because there are new anomalies that I was not aware of back in July. At the same time, there are other things that could be explained by a natural process. So I'm a bit torn between evidence in one direction versus the other, and I'm waiting. So for example, just to give an example, this morning I wrote an essay about the non-gravitational acceleration, and there was a paper trying to infer the mass or the size, the diameter of 3I Atlas, and they derived the 1 kilometer, but there are many uncertainties in that estimate, and I mentioned them in my essay. Now, 1 kilometer would not have as much tension with the mass budget of rocks in interstellar space as a 5-10 kilometer object. 10 kilometer is 1,000 times more massive object than 1 kilometer. So this is an example for a situation where if the object is smaller than a kilometer, perhaps the size is not an anomaly. But originally, it was bigger than that. So we don't know what the actual size is. We have to wait. But at the same time, the antitail existing after perihelion, but also there is evidence for wobbling of the jet now. There was a paper a week ago, and the wobbling is with 8 degrees deviation from the rotation axis. So basically, you should think of the jet, the antitail, as the light beam coming from a lighthouse, where it's not aligned with the rotation axis, so you get it to wobble around the rotation axis along a cone. And the point is that this cone is just 8 degrees. So not only is the jet coming from a base close to the rotation pole within 8 degrees, but also the rotation axis is aligned with the direction of the sun to within 8 degrees, because we know the jet is roughly in the direction of the sun. So why would the rotation axis of 3I Atlas that is coming from a very large distance, why would it be aligned with the direction of the sun at large distances to within 8 degrees? There is no reason for that. The chance is 0.5% just for this anomaly, just for the rotation being aligned
just
with
for that one, because we have plenty of them. Heavy Loeb, and I don't see any evidence or good explanation from scientists to fit a natural, evident natural object that has nothing. It might be both. It might be natural and alien as well. Who the heck knows? No, it's something.
So for the technological possibility of a thruster producing this jet, it could be, for example, to deflect any high energy particles coming from the sun, so that they will not impact the device. And for example, there was a solar storm, when 3I Atlas passed close to the sun.
Big one.
And if there is, if you have some electronics or some devices inside the nucleus of 3I Atlas, and you want to protect them from the high energy particles coming from the sun, one way to do that is to launch a jet that will deflect any incoming flow from the sun towards the object, and it will always be in the direction of the sun when the object is approaching the sun, when the object is receding from the sun. So that could be an explanation. Otherwise, you need to arrange for a pocket of ice to be close to the pole when the object is approaching the sun to produce an antitail, and then when the object recedes from the sun, you need to go to the opposite pole and arrange for a pocket of ice there as well. Not to speak about the fact that you will never get it to be collimated, like we see 10 times longer than it is wide. So, this is a real mystery that needs to be resolved. And you can't just say that you understand the object without addressing it, without acknowledging it.
And waiting for us, don't look up, not to look up and forget it, because we are curious about that. And I didn't know about that one, about the anti-jet that could be something to deflect the solar. Yes, makes sense, because he's very resistant to, and it was, to several, not only one, several coronal mass ejections from our sun.
So the point is, in the direction of the jet, you basically block any outflow coming from the sun in the form of energetic particles, a solar wind or coronal mass ejections. You block them at a distance of 1 million kilometers. We know that because the jet goes all the way to that distance.
Yeah.
So that would be a very good way to protect your
like a shield. And it has the motion of the plasma from the sun and the sunlight. It has to be stronger than that to counteract that. Of course, it's not vacuum. Only it has the
that is the most a sensible thing I could think of in terms of a technology. But if it's natural, one has to explain why the jet is collimated and why it's directed at the sun in both instances. And, there might be a natural explanation, but someone has, I wrote already 3 papers on the anti-tail, and but other people ignore that, and they don't try to explain it. They just say, you should believe the message that it's a natural comet just from a different environment.
Yes. Crazy.
And the geometric alignment of the rotation axis means the object has a permanent day side and a permanent night side. The Earth, on the equator, day changes to night because the rotation axis is almost perpendicular to the direction to the sun. However, this object has the rotation axis aligned. And so that means that one side of it is day and the other side is night. And that changes when the object passed close to the sun. Then the two sides reversed roles. The side that was night side became the day side, and vice versa. So when you see a long anti-tail coming from both poles, the question is, why are the two sides, the two poles, behaving the same way?
Because it's a new tail, basically, because it's in a different side of it. It's crazy. So
you need if it's like an improbable chance to have a pocket of ice near the pole. Now you have to square that probability, because it's the probability of it being near the North Pole times the probability of it being near the South Pole, when you want to get the antitell in both ways.
And also, yes, I know that you now are more focused on the antitell anomaly, but that the nickel with almost no iron is a strong one, no, Dr. Loeb.
And on that, Joe Rogan asked Elon Musk, and he said, well, we have a lot of asteroids delivering nickel to Earth, but the point is that they also deliver iron. That's the point that he did not really convey. We haven't seen a cosmic object like an asteroid or a comet that has much more nickel than iron. And of course, the authors of that paper said, well, maybe the same carbonyl process that we use in our industries operate in nature. And, obviously, if you have someone else using technology, it will also be the case. I don't see that as more speculative than saying nature does the carbonyl process, as to saying someone else is doing what we are doing with our industries.
Exactly. Consider the two hypotheses because they are very similar in terms of chances. No, I don't trust Elon. Elon, something is suspicious in that because he is not supposed. If it was another YouTuber like me or something, okay. But Elon Musk has the obligation to know that. And I don't believe that he doesn't know that. And I don't know. I don't want to explore that further. But we the people, don't buy that.
Well, I think we should be positive. The point is, the way to learn what the nature of 3i Atlas is to collect as much data as possible, because it's like the work of a detective. And of course, if the detective is surrounded by people that have already a good idea of who the criminal is in a crime scene, they might convict the wrong person and nobody would know unless someone does a DNA test. And so the point is, we need to just get as much data as possible as long as we can observe 3i Atlas, and that's the key. And my hope is that we will indeed hear from the big telescope soon. And it doesn't really matter what Elon says as much as it didn't matter what the Vatican said in the days of Galileo. Who cares? I mean, what matters is what comes through the telescopes.
Exactly. And it will be what will prevail in the future as well. And about this new thing with Jupiter approach will be on March 16, and the Earth will cross the debris of, near the path of 3i Atlas. Is there any real chance? I read your post about that, but is there any real small chance of us to have on Earth something coming, even that it's not dangerous in the natural side? I mean, the dust in the sky, and we can capture anything weird in the sky and beautiful.
Yeah, in principle, there could be particles that are bigger than hundreds of microns that will not be pushed away from the sun by the solar radiation pressure or the solar winds. So they would rain on Earth. Now, in Earth, small particles that are less than a meter, much less than a meter, they burn up in the atmosphere. But, for example, we have a space station. You could do an experiment that would collect dust particles raining from the outside on Earth. If someone wants to do it, we can collect particles at the time that we expect based on the dynamics of material from 3i Atlas to arrive at Earth. It could be in a few months. If someone wanted to do that, we can do that and collect the dust. We usually collect dust coming from the solar system, but that maybe there would be some contribution for large dust particles coming from 3i Atlas. In my post, I said that these particles would burn up in the atmosphere, but if we put a detector above the atmosphere, we could potentially find them.
Interesting. And of course, we have to consider the hypothesis of being, if it's alien and if it sent any probe, that will be undetectable by our telescopes because they are very tiny. We don't even capture some small asteroids that almost hit the Earth, and sometimes they hit. And we have to consider
until they come very close, and until they get so these would be unidentified anomalous objects, difficult for our telescopes to notice, and also astronomers ignore these things usually.
Yeah, but if we have a new AP now system implemented to scan the sky, it's worth
Yeah.
at least to consider to compare what is
Yes.
now or from now.
So, one of my current leadership positions is the head of the Galileo project, and we have 3 observatories. And I told my team to look at data and see if there is any enhanced activity near Earth in the months to come.
At least we have you. Dr. Loeb, thank you very much for your time here. It was awesome. You know that we love you always here. And I wish you a very nice rest of holidays if you are on them. Don't work too much and don't always think positive and feel flattered about the AI stuff they do about you and things like that. It's because you are relevant to the world. It's
Well,
just that.
Thank you so much. And I really hope that, within the coming months, we learn something new and that it will bring us to a better place altogether, humanity. And I believe in our future, that the future can be better than our past, as I said at the beginning.
Me as well. Thank you so much and have a great rest of the day. Dr. Avi Loeb. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right, this time I didn't mess it all. Closing the live stream. Let me get back to... It was very nice, wasn't it? It was very nice interview. I couldn't read the chat as I wish, and I said to you, no questions, man. I have my conversations and my questions, my own questions. We don't have time for that. If Avi Loeb said, okay, Tiago, I will be all day with you to answer your questions and any questions that the people want. I would ask, of course. I forgot to show you that I had that here, man. I forgot. It was the only thing I forgot. I closed by mistake. Let me share the screen. I closed by mistake, just as a curiosity. I was not going. Look, I have it here, man, right here to show him. Look, here. I have it here, and it was to show him as a curiosity. Look. Avi Loeb is a scientist. I'm aware of this has no scientific validation data. I'm pretty sure 100% it was 3 Atlas because I was pointing there with you. We were getting ready to stack. Furthermore, we stacked the image after this event. I was distracted. I didn't see this coming. But the thing is, I don't have here measurements. I don't know. The thing is, the stars, what intrigues me in this composition is that the stars, this is 3 Atlas, it moved, and the stars didn't move. Look, the telescopes I have, this new one is more precise, the 16-inch, a big telescope, man. The telescopes I usually use here, they always move a bit. But when they move, everything moves in the screen, because the telescope moves and the camera as well, and everything, you see everything moving. The stars actually always move. It always happens. But at this moment, we can clearly see that the only thing that moves was 3 Atlas, man. And this, I still don't understand this, and it's very crazy, man. I just don't say 100% because there's a small chance of this being a UFO. Plasmoid or something. You loved it. Yeah, man. Dr. Loeb it's awesome, man. He's awesome. Thomas, thank you for gifting 50 Dobsonian Power memberships. Welcome, everyone, to the Serenity. We have to give a name to the telescope later, after I use it. A new one. You are an explorer. I have more stuff for you. What? Missy Lagar. Your husband? Steven, he's watching now, and it's its birthday. Happy birthday, Steven! From 3i Atlas, look.
Connecting to 3i Atlas probe. Hello, 3i Atlas. Thank you. Merry Christmas to you as well. Please can you send Happy Christmas and Happy Birthday, Happy Birthday to Steven here on Earth. Thank you. What? Okay, I'll transmit them. Okay.
They said, Steve, that they will send probes as well. Damn! On March. Now I can do these silly things. Dr. Loeb, a respectful Harvard scientist, is not here anymore. Happy birthday. You know that I don't put my suit and my ties that I still have from my past with the shenanigans. Did you know that many years ago I always used suit and tie? Always, every day, single day, 7 o'clock in the morning. Tie. Crazy. How things change. How things change for better. And this image, man, it's something, it was unexpected. It's my second, I don't know if I can call it an UFO, because I know almost for sure it was 3i Atlas. We were following. I don't know what to call to this. It was a movement, a small movement. I think it stopped there. After that, it stopped doing this abruptly movement. But it's here. I still get fascinated. Thank you so much, explorers. Thank you. You don't know how I'm grateful to have you here, because if it wasn't for you, I will never see this. Thank you so much, man. Always do that. Don't be ashamed. I always listen and read you. Say the things. Say the things that you see, even that they might look weird. Because sometimes we get gems like this one. This will be forever. And actually, this footage was not made by me. I made the live stream, and one of you had the work of downloading this and cropping, so we could see the 3i Atlas doing this maneuver or whatever. So, everything is clear now. No shenanigans. The shenanigans that still are here. Everything is clear now with 3i Atlas, AV Loeb, it's still a 4. Quacks. Shenanigans. The charlatans were disappointed today. My Christmas gift to the charlatans was this conversation with AV Loeb. I have more stuff here. Let me just hydrate. Merry Christmas! Watch the replay. It was interesting. Actually, you can see, man, I'm not better or less than anybody. But my conversations with AV Loeb are different from anyone else. That is for sure, 100%. So, something new you will learn and understand today. So, what we have here, let me see. 1 hour, 14 minutes right now. What we have here to show you about 3i Atlas. Man, they keep... I was thinking they were now on Christmas or holidays or whatever. The shenanigans... no, the NPCs were going to stop this thing of wanting me to stop talking about 3i Atlas. There's more anomalies and more scientific studies and more data. Didn't you heard? Loeb, more data will come to analyze. And it's lovely to see the shenanigans trying to fit their narrative without success. It's crazy. And inventing stuff. Like this man today, 2 papers. I think they watch my live streams. Because I was hitting them about the radio telescopes a lot. Man, I can't understand why they don't use. Did you see on the live stream? The receiver worked with the Goldstone telescope. Goldstone still exists. Arecibo, they decided not to repair it. Arecibo got those amazing images, detailed images of asteroids, of comets, whatever, man. And now we have this one, Goldstone, on United States, that can do that job, man. Why hiding it? Why not investing on that as well? And put these machines in space to watch it better. I'm pretty sure they use it. They don't want to share with us their results. I truly believe that, man. I was containing myself not to say many anti-shenanigan stuff with Loeb present, but I couldn't resist, man. They hide information, man. Period. They hide clearly, man. Charlatans. They hide information from us. And that thing of Elon Musk not saying the truth, man, very suspicious. And those blurry pictures. And those movements, even the president with the executive order. During 3i Atlas approach, executive order to move NASA under the umbrella of intelligence. Why? What the heck? Then the meeting in Quantico. 54 kilometers from that big Green Bank telescope. That biggest one that we have. Man, with the generals. Moving military stuff to the military houses or whatever. Man, all very weird. And meetings here and there, and China and every big country shut up. Isn't that suspicious? And don't look up. Don't look up. Don't look up. Don't look up. My wife was saying to me, they are doing like the movie Don't Look Up. They have something to run away to Earth and run away from Earth if something happens. And man, 100% I believe that. Don't look up. And we... you, Earthlings. We have our own spaceship. You. Crowd. Me and you. No? Do you trust them? Do you think they will... Attention, citizens. Earth is being under attack. Please, leave your houses. Come to our spaceships. The location is delivered right now in your smartphones. Search for the near spaceship to run away from the Earth. You will be safe. No. Okay, we have here, let me see the weather. If we can watch 3i Atlas today. Let me go outside, because it was raining. Well, God says no. But most likely, tomorrow is Christmas, right? Christmas Eve. I will do a live stream. Something I will do. Regardless. If it's raining, we'll search for alien life. If it's not raining, we'll search for UFOs. The Santa Claus in the sky. Santa Claus in the sky. Your friend saw a triangle in Sheffield, I believe. Triangles everywhere. Building a better bunker. It was a good present, no? A good gift. And he was comfortable. He always is comfortable here. Wonder why. I didn't set any trap. So we have different stuff here to talk about. I have loads of stuff, but I'm always... Okay, there's a different approach here of 3i Atlas from a paper that we should consider. We are open-minded. I consider everything here. I'm not like the shenanigans. I consider every possibility and every scientific paper, right? It's the right approach, right? Not like them. So we have here a synchronization detected between 3i Atlas 16.16 hour light variability cycle and the Earth's 24-hour solar day. So what here is proposed is that there's something, some connection, some kind of connection. Thank you. There's some kind of connection between the 16.16 hour light variability they detected. They are always changing the light variability. The light of 3i Atlas, that is very weird. We don't know if it's from the nucleus, everything. It's not only reflection from the sun for sure, but they don't know. A correlation with that light and the Earth's 24-hour solar day. The thing is, remember the ones that, this is for the ones that were here since the beginning of 3i Atlas topic. Remember Draco Eltanin that came here and give the super chats and that was always talking about the number 144, 144, and I was like, I didn't understand that. Why 3i Atlas not mainstream media? Vac, boom. Because they don't want us to have attention to that. Don't look up. Thank you, Carl, for your super chat. Super chat. They don't want, man. They want you to be worried with the things they want you to be worried about. Things they create. Remember Draco Eltanin? That disappeared? And the Galactic Federation stuff and that thing? And he disappeared then? Remember? And he was talking about the 144, and I couldn't understand, neither you, because I asked for help, and you were talking about 144, I don't know. It's something ancient or something like that. 144. He said, not 144,000. It was 144, the number. And the number, it was phi. You know that symbol that is the phi? Well, I just, this was just released and I just found it. About that synchronization, that by coincidence. Graham Hancock, which I appreciate a lot, also published the study here. Is on his website. A synchronization detected between 3 Atlas, light variability cycle, and the Earth's 24-hour cycle, so one full day. I was intrigued about this. 144 is from Revelation. Well, let's see, because I found that number here in this study. A lot. So basically, what they say said here in the study, I will summarize it as usual for you. So the paper explores if the interstellar object 3 Atlas has signs of intentional, intelligent behavior, rather than being a purely natural comet. Sounds good? So he proposes that 3 Atlas may be a directed comet, possibly a sentient or semi-sentient entity. That thing that I always say, it can be both. It can be natural and technological as well. It's compatible. And this kind of studies demonstrate that. And the paper investigates whether its observed light variability encodes meaningful information. So this is all about the light of 3I Atlas. That is a subject of some confusion because several times they changed. The observations were different, which is super weird as well. Nobody noticed it, but we study the different studies here during all these months, and all were different. So it was detected a 16.16 hour light variability cycle in 3 Atlas, initially attributed to rotation and jet activity. But later observations suggest that it originates from a regular pulse brightening in the coma, not in a nucleus shape. I remember to talk about this here with you. There were studies talking about that rotational pulse of light that they couldn't explain. This is not well explained till now. So it's viable to have different explanations, regardless they are true or not. So no other clear periodic signals had been reported at the time of writing. So what he says is, while I'm writing this, there's no more information about that rotation. Cool. So he converts, and here's the 144. He converts the 16.16 hours into 404 units of 144 seconds each. And the Earth 24-hour solar day equals 600 units of 144 seconds as well. So, in 3 Atlas and in the Earth 24-hour day cycle, we get the 144 seconds if we use the 404 units plus the 600 units. This produces a whole number ratio of 404 and 600, which is presented as evidence of synchronization between the object cycle and the Earth's rotation. The ones that like numerology will love this. So he explains the calculations, and he also talks about the number 144. Finally, I could get some information about that 144 that Draco Eltanin talked about a few months ago during our live streams. And it was a mystery. So, the paper emphasizes 144 seconds as a fundamental unit because 1. It divides both cycles cleanly. It appears in multiple ancient timekeeping systems like ancient China, Hindu systems, and Mayan calendar. Crazy, 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 crazy stuff. Crazy, crazy, crazy stuff. I love it. So he suggests this widespread use points to a shared ancient cosmological framework based on fractal time divisions. Crazy. When it has fractals, I love it. I just love it. And there's an extension to cosmology and numerology as well in this study. And he explains. And then he says, additional numerical patterns are linked to Fibonacci numbers, sacred geometry, Vedic Yuga cycles, precessional and eclipse cycles, and biblical and megalithic symbolism. 144,000, as you just said in the chat, and the Stonehenge measurements. The movie UFO? No. It's just that UFO? I have to check that. I'm watching, I thought it was on Netflix, The Age of Disclosure, and it wasn't. I'm watching something on Netflix. It's something alien, intelligent life or something like that. But it's something that they talk about things that I know already. I'm aware already. Intelligent life, I think it's called. So you see, he correlates this and all this 144 mystery number. Finally, I can get something about this number and to try to understand. I like to understand you, even that it seems crazy. So, the proposal that if 3i Atlas is sentient, it might enter dormant states between star systems. Crazy. So it means, and it match, man. It doesn't say here, but it match. Look, it means that 3i Atlas will get dormant between star systems and then be activated. 3i Atlas was activated near the sun. 3i Atlas had an activation that they can't explain near the sun. They can show it. I showed you a scientific paper the other day here that demonstrates, scientific paper, that demonstrates that activation. They studied all the data and they realized that different elements were activated. I can't remember, it was cyanide and other carbon monoxide, I think. Doesn't matter. It was only near the sun that was activated. So for some reason, I love this. The King's Sun has something to do with this, man. Not only that, remember what just said Avi Loeb about the anti-tail. That he's crazy about. You noticed that. He's crazy about the anti-jet. He's always pointing the sun. It's super, super weird. And he just said on this conversation with me and you that it can be like a shield to deflect the solar effect. And who knows what else more. Man, this is super weird, man. I'm glad we have people, open-minded people. They will be ridiculed by quacks, for sure. Oh, don't listen to them. It's all rubbish. Why is that? Because it's a comet. Why is a comet? Because it's green. It looks like a duck. It swims like a duck. It's a duck. Ah, okay. If you said so, I believe you should. Otherwise, you're fired. Man, what a world, man. What a world we live. What a world. So it can be dormant between star systems. It can be active within stellar plasma environments, like the King Sun.
The King Sun.
Crazy stuff, man. Green. Green like a comet. Welcome to the spaceship. Talking about green, it's a comet. I heard that. You don't believe? I heard that from a shenanigan. Green tea with lemon. I love it. Thank you for becoming an explorer. Welcome to the Serenity. Quack, quack, quack. So it can be activated with stellar plasma environments like the sun. It can communicate via light variability, numerical synchronization, or other signals. It completely blows away the SETI narrow and closed, imposed as well, hypothesis and way of doing things that only radio communications it's viable. And if there's no radio communication, what? Did you see? I was talking about that with Avi Loeb. Imagine that now a probe comes, our Voyager. It will be finished, gone, kaput in a while. No battery anymore. No way to produce anything. It will be a junk, space junk, flying through the universe. And one day, sooner or later, we'll cross the sky in a planet. And if that planet has people there, or aliens, or whatever they are, beings, intelligent beings, it will not communicate, it will not change direction, it will not send radio signals. If those aliens on that alien planet, the only way to grab or assume that we have technological signatures are radio communications, they are doomed. Voyager will pass, will leave them forever, and they would miss the opportunity to realize they are not alone in the universe. They have the beautiful human being ready to make war with them. It's what they do. No? Unless it was you and me. We are all about love. Here. Love in a general, concept. It can be synchronizing, 3 Atlas, synchronizing with the Earth's rotation. And it can be an intentional method of communication. So what he proposes is, no radio communication. We are talking about communication through light, changing the light, with numerical synchronization, with the Earth's rotation, as a way to communicate with humans. Will humans understand? Probably not. A later study reports a revised rotation of 3 Atlas to 15.48, our rotation period. They are always changing this. Corresponding to 387 units of 144, again, seconds. This also produces a whole number ratio with the Earth's day. The 387 ratio with 600 again. So he argues that this strengthens the idea of a recurring numerical resonance involving cosmic numbers, such as 72, 144, 432, and 1296. And he concludes that it might be a coincidence. It might be a coincidence, but at least is intriguing enough to get further attention. Interstellar objects should be monitored not only for physical anomalies, but also for potential informational or mathematical signals. If valid, such findings could challenge conventional views of life, intelligence, and cosmic structure. This is something new because it's something about something new as 3i Atlas is. What Loeb was saying about the comet experts. How can you be an expert in something new? You fool shenanigan. How can you, shenanigan, be an expert in something that is new? What is your expertise in interstellar objects? Okay. You know rocks. So, the thing is, it might be something, okay, it's an interesting study approach. In the future, which many people don't think because they think we know it all now, in the future, we will have more data. This was a simple study. In 4i Atlas, he will do for sure the study again, or somebody on his behalf. In 5i Atlas, another, and another, and another, and another. That's how science works. Testing, experimenting. If the results of all that data, interstellar object after interstellar object, gives a pattern that is evident, they get evidence. It's not a coincidence anymore. Oh, give the guy a chance, man. Don't be quacks. Give these guys a chance of opening our minds to other possibilities. Not only to see a duck. Man. Critical thinking. 3 Atlas is ancient, not new. New from our perspective. Come on, RSV, what are you? It was a duck that sent you here? Are you a bot? I don't talk with bots. Man, from our perspective. Oh, God. Well, tomorrow I will do something. I don't know what. I'm cool without knowing. More to learn. Melissa, always more to learn. Always, 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 always. Always, Melissa. You bet it. You bet it. I didn't wish the Merry Christmas to him because I believe he doesn't celebrate. No, something like that. It doesn't matter. It's holidays. It doesn't matter. Research 2021 Ganymede whistleblower spacecraft. Again, you're talking about that again? Only the hearings that pops here? Is it this? Ganymede. I suppose you are talking about Ganymede. Oh, Ganymede is a name. Hold on. Maybe I'm wrong. Ganymede. No. This is from the Congress. And it was 2 years ago, that one. In 2021, okay, a whistleblower of ESA said noticed a stranded spacecraft with a hole near Ganymede, the moon from Jupiter. Okay. And also a signal from this direction. I am aware of a signal, but not that story. 2021, let's do it like this. And it was sound and audio. If it's that. Let's do like this. Here. But this is 18 years ago. God, 18 years ago? Man, this deserves something. You see? When I'm talking about someone listen as in the future. 18 years ago, man. Let's listen to the Ganymede atmosphere on Jupiter. This is freaking crazy, man. You see this? 18 years ago. Bam! This is freaking crazy, man. What does it say here? Galileo plasma wave observations at Jupiter's moon Ganymede. 1996, man. 1996 was the year that the STS-75 with those weird objects captured by NASA. The shenanigans captured that. They tried to explain that and they couldn't. It's ice, they said. Using electrical dipole antenna. I have that, man. I have that here. My dipole antenna. I have my dipole antenna here. Well, approx 45 minutes compressed. Okay, in 1 minute. Color indicates wave intensity. Red is strong wave and blue is weak wave. Time indicated to the right, frequency vertically. Pitch reduced by a factor of 9. Entrance into Ganymede's magnetosphere marked by a strong burst of noise 6 to 10 seconds into the recordings. Okay, it was this spike here. This is crazy, man. This discovery marked Ganymede as not only the largest moon in our solar system, but also the only one known with its own internally generated magnetic field. And the source is NASA. This is from NASA. Shenanigans source. So this is all true. It's crazy, man. Didn't you enjoy this? Didn't you enjoy this, man? The Ganymede talking? Good question. Where is Ganymede? Where when 3 Atlas is there? Let's watch it. Good question. You see how I need you? Let's confirm that. To find the truth. It's opening the software. Man, I don't trust. And look that I have a t-shirt that says SpaceX and I have a cap as well here behind me. I don't trust him at all. I was very dumb. Well, innocent. Innocent, let's say. Okay, let's remove the UAPs. Human-made. And go to 3i Atlas. And now let's change the date. So it will be March 16. Well, we can consider plus or minus the date. But March 16, it's the closest approach. Okay, let's change the hour of the day. It will be at night. It will be my sunset. It will be very nice to watch with my new telescope. Where is 3 Atlas? Okay. Towards Gemini constellation, it matches. And Jupiter. And now let's go to Jupiter. Europa, Io, Callisto, Ganymede. It's the opposite side. It's not the nearest one. Look, 3 Atlas is here. And Ganymede, it's here. Well, assuming if 3 Atlas come from here, it will be at the left Ganymede and at the right Io and Europa. Well, and Callisto near Ganymede, which might be interesting. Let me check in a different website. Ganymede, you know that Ganymede, it has potential for life, you know that? It has potential for life. Let's see a different map. Thank you, Mama Bass. Thank you so much for your super chat. Super chat. I love how you and Javi are so humble and not afraid to explore new science concepts and ignore the established MOA, mob of arrogance. Ben, thank you so much for your kind words and the support as well. Yeah, man, we need to. Arrogance doesn't lead anywhere. Just miserable human beings. The further generations need better. than that, than the quacks. So March 16. There we go. Ganymede. Because the perspective is different, that's why, you see, in the other one, you see Io next to Ganymede because it's a different perspective. Well, it looks close. Let's do another one. Thank you, Kathy B, for sending 5 new members to the Serenity. Thank you so much. You are an explorer. So 3 Atlas now. I think this one will be better. March 16. Does it have the moons here? Doesn't it have the moons? It doesn't. Well, either ways, if you notice, the path of it, it's below Jupiter. This is ecliptic plane. And 3I Atlas will be below Jupiter. So either ways will be close to any of the moons. See? March 16. And the Earth, by that time, will be receiving or crossing the debris of 3 Atlas or whatever 3 Atlas left there. So it's crazy. Maybe it's not going for Jupiter, but it's more interested in Europa. Europa is another... Well, they will find it soon. Eyes on the solar system. Yeah, I have it here as well. Let me see. Let's go there. The jets push away from the sun. Can be. Thank you for the super shot.
Super shot.
So let's go towards October. Paused. Why? Let's pause this. Let me wait. It's in October. Again. It paused. I don't know why. They don't want us to see it or what? Is this paused? March 12. March 12. A 3 Atlas will be below this. A glitch. Okay, you will be very close. I wish you a positive rest of the day. I will end the spaceship now. It was an awesome moment with you and Loeb as well. And I'll see you tomorrow, okay?